Hey there, you on the table. I wonder if you'd mind taking a brief survey.
The second season of Severance has just begun, and it already feels like we have witnessed much more than we might have expected. Episode 3 deals with a lot of interesting information and dives deeper into some major things that might have serious repercussions for the rest of the episodes of this season. One of the biggest events in the episode has to be the GOAT division, but the one that makes us think crazy is Mark undergoing the reintegration procedure. Once the process is completed, everything we know about him will change and might bring new things to light. Let's go through Mark's reintegration procedure and how it might bring some major changes to the future of Severance. What does reintegration mean? Ever since their innies managed to get out, see the world of their outies, the MDR division's employees have had serious questions to answer about themselves. Each of them experienced something that has completely changed their perception of their existence. However, what happened to Mark himself impacted him rather severely. When the innie ended up shouting the phrase, "She's alive!" both Mark's outie and his sister Devon started wondering who this she that Mark's innie was talking about. The fact that Mark's innie held a photo of Mark and his wife Gemma when he made the declaration is what started to bother him. Initially, Mark said nothing about this and assumed that Innie's declaration was associated with Devon's child. But later, when Lumen sent Milacek to check up on Mark and ask some inquisitive questions about that particular time Mark's innie was active, it became clear that something bigger was at play. Amidst all this, Mark's innie had managed to send a message to his outie, a message that was now something Mark and Devon were both assuming. Mark's turn was to send his message to his innie, and Mark laid out a plan. He decided to reach out to his innie by burning a message into his retina and ensuring that the message remained for his innie. But the process wasn't tuning into something helpful, and Mark failed to burn the message into his eyes during the trials. Right then, Dr. Asal Ragabi popped up in front of his car. Ragabi appeared in Season 1 as the very surgeon who had installed the chip in Mark's head while she was working for Lumen. But that's not all, because it was also revealed that she had performed her reintegration procedure on Petey, Mark's innie's colleague at Lumen. Reintegration is the ideal solution for the innie and the outie to communicate with each other, as the procedure combines the memories of both identities. According to Ragabi, this procedure allows for full synaptic recouping and thus stops the chip from controlling the person based on location. Even though it sounds like an ideal solution, it is a risky measure because the last person who did it, Petey, ended up dying due to not following up with Asal Ragabi after the procedure. Dr. Ragabi stated that she had found a safer way to perform the procedure that might not have had the outcome Petey had to face. Knowing Mark's outie, he could have backed out right away, but the fact that his wife was still alive bothered him, so he agreed to go through with the procedure. Ragabi set things up in his basement and put him through. We saw the process as she slowly aligned the different brain waves of the personalities and their memories. Ultimately, the process looked like it was a success as Mark's point of view jumped right into Innie's first day at Lumen. But we can't be entirely sure that Mark had successfully undergone the procedure. Generally, TV shows save such a moment for a later reveal instead of showing it immediately. But the episode went through with the procedure, which has only given us more food for the rest of the series. How does this change everything for Mark? And how would he work into his mission to find out what happened to Gemma or Ms. Casey? There's a chance that the procedure might have been a failure, and it could be something that could follow Mark through the rest of the series. What does Mark's reintegration mean for him and everything else? Based on everything we know in this season, Mark won't be killed off due to the reintegration procedure like Petey because of his importance to multiple people in the series. He might have side effects from undergoing the procedure, but there's no way that it would lead to something that will get him killed. But then, how would the reintegration affect everything for Lumen and the other severed employees? Will Mark become the individual who unites the innies with the outies? One of the first things that we might expect to see in the series is the conflict between the memories of Mark's innie and outie. When Mark joined the Lumen, it had already been a while since Gemma had passed away, but Ms. Casey had been working with him at Lumen after he had joined there. This might cause some serious hiccups for the reintegration procedure because her presence might be something that will prove that his outie's memories are wrong, that she is indeed alive, and that he has spent some time with her while working at Lumen. The only difference could be how Mark knew Gemma and Ms. Casey's personalities, which are very different. Ms. Casey is a lot more robotic in in her behavior, which might result from the experimentations that Lumen might have done on her. However, once the memories are reintegrated, Mark will have a clearer perception of Lumen's work by combining outside theories and his work, life, inside Lumen. In fact, the beginning of the second season clarified that his personalities are somewhat working together. While Mark's innie was fighting to get all his colleagues to be brought back to work, his outie was deciding whether he should leave Lumon or not. Similarly, while his innie was looking for Gemma, his outie also started to do the same, ask the right questions, and eventually went for the reintegration procedure. This fashion of working together with each other indirectly could be something that might prove helpful in easing out the reintegration procedure. As for how the reintegration procedure will help his colleagues and impact Lumen, there's a lot to explore there. Irving's character is a complete mystery because, through his outie, we can see that there's a certain investigation and digging that he was trying to do regarding the workings of Lumen. In fact, the hallway that his innie started looking for might hold some answers that his outie had been looking for when it came to Lumen. Mark could help with this digging, as he could be someone who could convey the messages between his outie and his innie. In fact, Mark could do it in a fashion that doesn't make it sound like he has been interacting with his outie, and maybe also bring some answers regarding why Bert had been looking over Irving. In the case of Dylan, we could see an interesting parallel between Mark and him in the second season. While Mark's innie and outie are working together and seeking the answers together, Dylan is someone who has a lot of differences in the personalities of his innie and outie. While his innie is someone who is somewhat like Dwight Schrute from The Office, the outie is described almost as a loser by his wife, Gretchen. Zach Cherry explained this perspective when he stated, "He spends a lot of season 1 hypothesizing and self-mythologizing about who he might be on the outside, and I think that adds to his confidence. He tells all these stories about how he might be a riverboat captain, and he does muscle shows, and he hooks up with women left and right. He's able to tell himself any story about who he is, and it can be true. So when he starts to hear what his outie is really like, he's confronted with the fact that those stories aren't true. There are versions of this that can happen in real life. This is a silly example, but maybe you think of yourself as a really good cook, and then you have your friends over for a dinner party, and they're not that into it. Then you go, this story I've been telling myself about myself is not true. That can impact how you feel about yourself and what you want to do going forward. I completely agree. It would be devastating to find that there's that much difference between the two personalities of the same person. Now that Dylan has stopped working with his colleagues, Mark might be able to figure out the reason and then confront him. Once they do have this confrontation, Mark can communicate a unique perspective about his outie, which might be the one that is generally talked about when they see an individual. So, in a way, Mark might be able to get Dylan to work along with them by showing how Dylan is being indirectly manipulated by Lumen. Now, the case of Helly will be a completely different piece of work, considering it is clearly out there that Helly belongs to the Egan family. In fact, he might be able to figure out what happened to Helly's innie when she managed to get out based on the press around the event, and also see the statement that her outie made regarding this event. So, just like us, he might start wondering why Helly lied about her outside experience, and also start suspecting if the Helly he saw after they joined back might just be the outie working as an agent for Lumon, disguised as the innie. But there's also a chance that Mark might get caught by Helly now that he has been reintegrated, and his behavior might change how Helly's done since the beginning of Season 2. In fact, Helly's revelation might be something that will have a deep impact on Mark, considering it would change everything that his innie felt for her, considering they were somewhat romantically involved. Finally, when it comes to Lumen, Mark will be the perfect individual for the people outside to have a source on the inside to find out about Lumen's workings. While his sister might be able to help him get the dirt out about Lumen, Lumen itself won't be able to lose Mark yet, because Mark is one of their biggest employees and a major priority in terms of Egan's plans for the company. Mark himself will have a better means of figuring out what happened to Gemma and solving one of the biggest conspiracies of the series. One of the most important things to be said in the series was when Ragabi stated that the reintegration might be able to unite the individual who loves Gemma with the one who can love Gemma. So yeah, love can be an important tool to unite the two individuals and bring the answers to the questions they will have. After all, Anne Hathaway's character from Interstellar said, "Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space." Marvelous verdict. I am most worried about why Ragabi is helping out Mark, and why Lumen hasn't found out about her reintegration experiment. Petey's death had to be news, and there was a chance that they had dug into his death to find out that he might have undergone the procedure. Is she secretly working for Lumen? Is all this part of the Cold Harbor project to bring out the best outcome for Lumen by experimenting with Mark? We will only find the answers to these questions once Mark reintegrates into the lift, goes into Lumen, and makes the realizations. What is your theory regarding the next big drop that Severance will make, considering it feels like they have already crossed the intermission for this season?